Greetings, rising artists. Today I'm going to teach you how to create bubble letters. I'm going to teach you the easiest way that I know how to write out letters as bubble letters. You may already know a way to do it that is easier for you, but I'm going to teach you the way that I think is easiest to teach someone who has not learned bubble letters before. Bubble letters can be very simple if you break them down into these simple steps. I'm going to show you just a couple of letters on my paper here, and then I'll give an example of writing out our name, which is what I'm going to ask you to do later on. I'm going to just write a couple of letters here on my paper, and I'll give you a hint. To start, always write your letters as capital letters. Lowercase letters are more difficult to write as bubble letters. So I'm going to write just the first couple letters of the alphabet. So I'm going to start with A, B, C, and D. Now these are not bubble letters, these are just capital letters. To make them bubble letters, I am going to trace around the outside of these capital letters that I have just drawn. So I'll start with the letter A, and with my pencil, I'm going to trace up and over my capital letter. After I've traced around the outside of my letter, I also want to make sure that I come inside the triangle portion that makes the top of my A, and I want to trace that same shape from the inside. Now, to make this into a bubble letter, I'm going to simply take my eraser and I'm going to erase the capital letter from the middle of my paper, or from the middle of my bubble letter. That's going to leave behind just the bubble, which is what we want. Take your time, try to do a good job with your erasing. Some of my lines will still be visible from the inside because I've pressed down really hard with my pencil so that you can see my letters on the screen. So now I've got my letter A as a bubble letter. I'm going to do the same thing with the letter B. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to trace around the outside. And then I'm going to come inside these bubble shapes that I have made, and I'm going to trace the inside shape. They both look like a semicircle or the letter D as a capital. And then I'm going to take, again, my eraser, and I'm going to erase the capital letter from the middle to leave behind just the bubble letter. Now, you will find that most letters in the alphabet that you need to draw or want to draw as a bubble letter will be like the letter C. To make it a bubble letter, you can simply trace around the outside. And you don't have to worry about going inside and tracing any inside shapes like we had to for the letters A and B, and we'll also have to for the letter D. I've simply traced around the letter C. I can take my pencil and I can erase the line from the middle. That'll leave behind the bubble, which is just what I want. Now D is kind of fun because if I want to, I could actually just take my pencil and trace around the outside of the letter D, and that would actually make a bubble letter. Now, if I follow the same steps that I've been using before, I'll come inside the letter D, I'll trace that same shape on the inside, and then I'll take my eraser and I'll erase the capital letter that I began with. You can do it either way, whichever way works best for you. So those are just 4 examples of a bubble letter. Now, I can do the same thing with my name. I'm going to flip my paper over. I'm just going to write my last name out, and I'm going to write it nice and tall. There are 6 letters in my last name. Some of you have longer names than I do, longer first and last names, and that's okay. And you're going to go through the same process. Now, for me to write out my name, I wanted to write the letters first, all 6 letters of my last name, so that I knew that I had enough space on my paper. That's another tip that I'll tell you. If you're trying to fit a certain number of letters into a space, practice writing them out as capital letters first, instead of making each individual letter one at a time. sometimes you'll discover if you do that, at the end, you'll run out and you still need room to write 1 or 2 more letters. Now that I've got my letters written out, I'm going to go through the same process that I did before, where I'm going to trace around the outside of my letters, and then I'm going to trace the inside. I'm going to wait to erase those capital letters from the middle until after I've traced all my letters, just to make this process go a little bit faster to show you. Now, if there is a young artist watching this video with a parent and you need a little bit of help from an adult, that's okay. I would actually ask an adult who wants to help you, or if you are asking an adult to help you, I would ask that adult do hand over hand to help you do this, instead of having the adult draw for you, because I want you to experience making the bubble letters yourself. Now, to do hand over hand, it's literally what it sounds like. Whoever is at home as a grown-up helping you can put their hand over your hand that is writing and can help guide your hand to do the drawing. That way you're still learning and gaining that muscle memory from trying on your own, rather than just having a grown-up do it for you. You'll become more independent and you'll learn more art smarts faster if you do it yourself. So now that I've traced over all of my letters, I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase the capital letters from the inside. And again, that's going to leave behind the bubble that we want. When you finish, you can add color and designs and patterns to the inside of your letters. So my project for you today is to write out your first name using bubble letters. Find a piece of paper or get out your sketchbook and write out your name in capital letters first. You can trace around them to make the bubbles, and then you can erase the capital letters from the middle to leave the bubbles behind. When you finish, you can color them in with whatever coloring supplies you have at home. You can add patterns or decorations to the inside. You can use shapes, lines, colors, numbers, and symbols to make patterns. Anything that repeats can be a pattern. You can even see next to my paper, I've got a leaf patterned tablecloth on the camera. So please give it a try. Remember that if you ask for help from a grown-up, I would ask that any grown-up that is listening to do hand-over-hand assistance so that you can learn the muscle memory that's required to be able to create bubble letters on your own. The more that you do this, the better you'll get at doing bubble letters. You can, once you get some more practice in, you can do all kinds of really fancy bubble letters. You don't have to stick to the ones that I'm doing, which are kind of simple, because I'm just trying to teach you from the very beginning how you can be successful at creating bubble letters. I want to thank you for your time and for working hard with me today, and I hope that you'll send me a picture of your finished bubble letter name. Have a great day, my rising artists.